Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. It is, of course, time for a shop tour, and it's a special shop tour for a couple of different reasons. First of all, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Here we are, November 28th. It is our last Thursday in November, and it is also Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I hope you will all watch the shop tour together today as a family and friends, and happy Thanksgiving. So, couple things before we get started. We crested 4,000 subscribers yesterday. So thank you for all of you that have subscribed. But here's the other thing. I know that about 42% of you that watch these shop tours are not subscribed to the JPM Performance channel. So we do more than just shop tours. But we got some more other things than shop tours coming down the pipe as well. So hit that subscribe button, and then you'll get notified every time a new video hits. And you'll also be doing me a personal favor. So appreciate that. So, okay, first off, weather report. It's cold. It has gone pow. So it's like 30s today for highs. This is it, right? We are in the winter time. So you can see I've got my long sleeve thermal on. I keep the shop set at 61 degrees in the winter time. If it was really any warmer than that, I'd probably get to sweating. But if you're doing things like building an engine and you're not doing monstrously physical labor, you need something like this. And then when I get to crawling around cars, I get a little warm. So 61 is my number in the shop. So that's what I'm keeping it at. All right, let's get into the shop tour. A couple of interesting things today that I know I haven't shown you guys in the past. So I've got actually Steven Simon's engine laid out here. You can see the block is freshly painted. Well, John commented on the smell of the paint when he came in today. So I base coat, clear coat all of my blocks, clear coat them to help the paint last longer. Racing engines take a beating when it comes to, you know, water leaks and oil leaks sometimes, you know, hoses and this and that. So whenever they go out, I like them to look their best. So we're looking good here. But what I want to show you guys today is something that I definitely have never shown anybody. So these pistons, as you can see, they look like they've got a coating on them, and that's because they do. But this is not your standard coating, like skirt coating. Sometimes you'll see top coatings. This is from a company called Line to Line, and what they specialize in is a coating that takes up room. And why do you need that? So what we've got is a block. It's got a few seasons on it, it's got some age on it, and the bore continuously needs to get honed through every rebuild. Well, every time you get a little bit of wear, so you're going to get wear on your piston, but you're also going to get wear on your block. This block was worn about 0.002 beyond what you really should be running skirt to bore clearance. So rather than do a brand new block, so you can see that this block has been, this is one of the rare ones that's actually been line honed with ARP studs. Normally I don't do that on these F production motors, but this one's had that. It's obviously been stress relieved. It's had all the modifications that I do to it, bored and honed and decked and ready to go. So rather than do a brand new block for a huge expense, Line to Line does this coating that will take up all the room. So you get your block bored and honed, so everything's perfect, round with the torque plate, and then you tell them what bore size you're going to run. So this piston, while it's brand new, had a piston clearance of about 7 thousandths. So that's about 3 thousandths more than I like to see on a 40 over bore. So these pistons, and I haven't fixed them yet, but they don't quite fit. So this coating comes, the bore is a little bit bigger. So what they want you to do is they want you to Scotch-Brite the sides like this until they just slip in, which means, and I haven't done it yet, so this is not going to slip in, but until it just slips in without friction. So meaning that if you put your hand underneath, it would pretty much drop into place, but you have literally no skirt to bore clearance. This high performance coating from Line to Line wears with oil film. So what they suggest is you get the engine running, you run it for about 20 minutes, and it self-clearances itself. Now, that may sound a little funny to you. It sounded a little funny to me the first time I've tried it. but it actually works like a dream. You can do it on used pistons to bring up your clearance into proper specs, and we've actually, it has worked great for me in the past. I've just never gotten to show you guys this. But instead of throwing away maybe a good set of pistons or a block that has been slightly worn, line to line, pretty cool stuff. So just getting ready to assemble Steven's engine. Actually, probably would have had this one close to finished, except for I had an engine for John Elder that needed to get done because he's going racing at Homestead and Sebring in January. So, Steven, I jumped you one engine, but now you're up. Now you're on deck, buddy. So we're looking good. So, a year or two ago, you guys, if you have been watching these shop tours for a long time, you know that I ended up buying this Viper chair. This is one that I use for welding mainly, but I also use it for relaxing. If I'm on the phone, I can take, you know, get off my feet for a minute. When you're standing on concrete all day, you get worn out, right? So just a beautiful chair. It adjusts up and down very easily. I liked it so much, and if you've ever seen these, probably most of you have these in your little shop. A little red stool, and when you sit on it, when you're down low, it gives you something to sit on, but if you try and roll around, oftentimes you can get tipped over and quite literally bust your you-know-what. Viper makes these little ones, so I ended up getting one of these little suckers. Over the years, this is kind of where I will blow off all of my parts after they've been through the solvent tank, rinsed, through the ultrasonic machine, rinsed again, and then you come back to blow everything off. Well, in the past, you'd come and you'd be on a knee, you know, blowing things off, and man, my back started hurting and my knee started hurting, and now I come over here and I can blow things off just like this. Not only that, if you look at the base of this thing is not going to tip over on you, even on rough surfaces. So even though Viper Chairs is not paying me to say this, it's like one of my best purchases ever. And as a matter of fact, they're having a Black Friday sale all week, and you can get one of these. They're expensive chairs, don't get me wrong, but you can get a really good discount this week on a Viper chair. I highly recommend it. Okay, there's the end of my sales pitch. Okay, so Steven's car, she's just kind of marinating over here. We're going to get the engine finished. Obviously, not going to get a whole lot done on Thanksgiving or tomorrow, but first of next week, rock and roll. Although I will get a lot done today on the engine as well. But should be just about ready to install this next week. I'm going to get Steven's project rocking and rolling, and you can see the shop looks a little bit empty right now, but that's because I've got more cars coming. So, had really good success with Cameron Walgren's BMW. We had talked about the thermostat housing and the thermostat, and we had the blown head gasket and all this all back together. The new thermostat worked perfect, ran perfect on the dyno. He's already picked it up, and it's back in Colorado. So, moving on. You can see I've got, so this is actually John Elder's completed engine. Will be picked up today. Actually, it won't be picked up today. It's Thanksgiving. It's going to be picked up on Monday. So it'll be here ready to go. So this has to go up to TRB Autosport in Minnesota, and they will get this installed into John's car and broken in and dynoed and ready to go to Florida. Okay, Camaro update. I think I talked about how I might have the engine removal started, but I didn't get that done because I wanted to jump on John's engine, and I have heard nothing from the engine builder, so I'm not super concerned about that. Only takes me about a day to get this out anyway, so not too bad. But in the meantime, I worked on the differential. So a couple things. So this is actually our new differential that's going to be going in, but he's been carrying this thing around in like an old pan. So I did get this pretty cool little differential box. So it sits down in here and it bolts into the bottom, and then this slips on top like that, and it keeps it safe and it keeps it clean and dry. So that's awesome. Now, some of the more interesting things that I found. So you guys probably haven't seen this out of the car, but look at the size of this axle housing. And actually what it is it's all about the bracing, right? So it's obviously a custom built axle housing that has massive bracing top and bottom. These things are just so cool to work on. Sometimes people ask me, why in the world are you working on that Camaro? This thing is a purpose-built race car, and as a race car guy, it is a super cool piece. So I got it all apart. We had talked about how the axle had snapped. Take a look at the twist job on those splines. So this axle twisted itself right out. It's pretty cool to see. Twisted that axle right off. There's the two pieces right there. So got the axle housing out, got all of the shrapnel out of the diff housing, got it completely cleaned inside and out, started removing the hubs here. We've got a dual bearing hub inside of this upright, and this is your drive plate, or your drive hub. So the axle goes obviously into the diff, and then it comes into this drive hub. Well, when I was inspecting these drive hubs, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see this or not, but the splines are about 3/4 of the way, I don't know if you can see in there, the splines are about 3/4 of the way worn out. I was looking at this stuff when I was cleaning it, I'm like, well, if that axle wasn't going to break, these splines were going to strip. So I'm glad I caught that. So 2 brand new drive hubs installed, bearings packed. What I'm getting ready to do here is actually mock up the housing for an alignment. You're like, well, what's that all about? You've got a solid axle. Well, like we talked about before, these axles have ball ends on them, which means you can run some camber out here. So we've got these custom shims that go between the housing and the upright, and you can actually change your toe and you can change your camber depending on the angle of the shim. These shims are milled at an angle. So as you rotate the shim, it changes camber and toe. It's a pretty cool deal. So getting ready to get this finalized, get the axles in, get the new differential in. We were using, before it had these, it's like a cork gasket. I found these, it's like a rubber lined, they call it a steel gasket, so I think it might have a piece of steel in the middle. I got these from Strange, but this is going to go right on there, and we're not going to have to worry about using silicone, and that's going to seal that diff housing right up. So that's going to be pretty cool. So just kind of chipping away on this. Should have this. It's like always. So I'm trying to work on all these different projects, chipping away on each one here and there. So that's what we're working on there. Like I say, we will have a minimum of 1 new car in the shop next week, which we'll talk about next week. Okay, Mazda 2 time. What have we been working on the Mazda 2? Well, I got this rocker piece in from Joe McClugan, and I'm starting to fit it into place. Unfortunately, it came up about 3/4 of an inch short. So I told him I needed 2 feet, and I got about 20 inches. So I'm about 4 inches short on what I wanted. But what I'll do is I'll weld this piece in. But I think what I'm going to end up doing, since the rocker is pushed in here, and he sent me enough to come all the way up, I think I'm actually going to cut this all the way out, up high, and bring it down and work on that. I haven't done a ton of work on that because I got the rear fuel cell bracing done. So you saw a couple weeks ago how this was all loose and wobbly. What I ended up doing was installing a brace off of the piece here down to this tube, and then another small bracket off of the bracing up to the cage. This is going to hold this whole corner solid. I mean, it's solid as a rock now. The cell is in place. So I just ordered all of my, once I got this all done, I wanted to mock up my bulkhead fittings and make sure that I had, the right angles on all of the fittings that I wanted to do, and really thought about that. Also going to do a special through firewall connector so that I can unplug the fuel pump as well. So I'm trying to think about how to make this easier to take apart next time. So that is basically our Mazda 2 update for the week. Like I always say, just chipping away, right? So keep chipping away on your cars. Next week it's going to be December. We're going to go racing before you know it. So keep working on your cars. Have a great Thanksgiving, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Appreciate it. Take care.